Welcome to today's episode of the Bad Influence Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Banderas, and on today's episode, I want to share a conversation I had with one of my coworkers. The reason why I want to share this conversation is because what she told me is something that I have heard pretty much throughout my entire life growing up. And it also reminded me of how I learned about relationships, which to me was a pretty fucked up way, especially while growing up. So what happened in this situation is that work was very, very, very slow. We didn't have anything to do for a few hours because the machines were down and the mechanics couldn't find the issue right away. So we were just bullshitting the night away. We were just talking about everything and anything just to not be bored. And at one point during our conversation, we started talking about our relationships. And I was like, okay, shit. I'm just gonna share whatever, So what I shared with her is that my relationship is good now, but it wasn't like that in the beginning. Because Katie and I, my wife and I, had to work through all of the rough edges that I had coming into this relationship. So pretty much she had to smooth me down because I was a little rough. And because I shared that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask the same thing. I asked her, how's your relationship going? I'm fucking curious as well. And she went off. And I mean off. She was telling me that her relationship sucks. And that she doesn't feel supported. And that she feels unimportant to her partner, and that he doesn't show any interest in her or anything about her. So she even said that she's considering on ending the relationship. Now, with Hispanics, let me tell you, when we talk about our relationships, we make it sound like the telenovelas that we grew up watching. Like, we are very overdramatic. So she let her feelings out. And I mean out. She was crying and snot was coming out of her nose. And she was telling me like how maybe she did something in a previous life and that's why nobody can love her. Like she needs to go see a shaman. And yes, we have shamans in Mexico, so I'm not offending anybody. And then she's telling me all of these things, and all of the sudden she stops, looks me dead in the eyes, and says, "What do you think I should do?" I was like, fuck. Because of everything that she told me, I didn't expect that question. I wasn't prepared. But because she opened up to me about her relationship, it reminded me of me growing up and hearing the exact same problems and words that she used being used by my mom's friends. Because when I was growing up, I listened to all of those conversations. Now, you probably are asking, why were you listening to those conversations if those are adult conversations? Well, the answer is pretty fucking simple. Because I grew up in the 90s. So I had no fucking choice. Because when my mom's friends will show up unannounced, they would literally sit down in our living room and we only had one fucking TV with good reception. So I wasn't going to watch Dragon Ball on black and white. Hell no. I didn't want to miss the brightness of the Kamehameha. Hell no. I wasn't going to take that. So that's what happened. And then if my mom and her friends and I was in the car, there was no other option but to listen because there were no iPhones. There were no iPads. I had nothing else to do while we were driving, or while my mom was driving or her friend was driving, because there was no access to the internet like that back then. Like, kids have it now. Like, now you can just put your fucking AirPods or earphones or whatever and look at your phone, look at your iPad. Even 7-year-olds, 5-year-olds have one now. So it's like you can argue bitch all you want in the car and your kids won't even hear it because they're doing something else. Instead, the only thing that I could do was look out the window and pay attention to what they were saying. But the funny part about this is that while I was listening to the adults bitch about the relationship as a young kid, I always wanted to ask, why are you in these relationships? Or another question that always popped up in my head was, if you're not willing to work things out with your husband, then why are you complaining? Probably he can't fucking read your mind. He doesn't know what you need. He doesn't know what exactly you're saying, because probably you're not talking to him about this. But because I unwillingly listen to all of this, I'm not bragging or anything like that, but sometimes I can come up with some good fucking advice. So my answer to my coworker about what she should do in regards to her relationship was that I have learned that when it comes to relationships, we often think that it's just about finding the right person. However, the truth is that when we find the right person, maintaining a healthy and happy relationship is still a challenge. So you may be with the person that you're saying like, oh, he's perfect for me, but you still have a challenge of keeping the relationship okay, because there will be a lot of things that can get in the way, such as communication problems, different expectations, and even our own individual baggage, which all of this is what I brought and had at the beginning of our relationship. All of those problems, I had them. So that's why I'm talking about this. Because it's important to remember that relationships are always a work in progress. You cannot stop working on your relationship just because you got comfortable. No. Ask the questions about how are you doing? I want to know more about you. Why haven't you told me about your life? Because even when things are going well, it is crucial to put in the effort to keep things on track. So nobody feels like the other person is not taking care of them. Because when problems do arise, and they do, it's essential to be willing to address them head on before they turn into this fucking mountain that you cannot control, like this avalanche. And with that said, I also mentioned to my coworker that relationships definitely are not easy, but they are definitely worth the effort. And I also shared this with her, and I want to share this with you guys, because when I got married, I thought that my relationship was going to be like how my mom's and her friends described theirs. Because I thought that my wife will always complain about me with her friends about the most stupidest reason, and she will never talk to me about the problem so we could fix the problem. So I had that fear because that was all I heard growing up from the adults around me. And even after knowing that I didn't want that kind of relationship, like the ones that I heard about with my mom's friends, I had never been married before, so I didn't know what to do. There's no fucking manual about relationships and what you should do to keep your relationship happy. There's ways to do it based on what works with certain people, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm just saying what worked for me. And it did. But I was scared that I wouldn't be able to make it work. So all you have to do is try to make things work. But now I'm happy to say that I was wrong. I'm actually happily married, and I have never been happier. But it took a lot of effort from both of us, not just from me, but from my wife, because she put up with all my shit. But we have made it work for 8 fucking years. The best part is that we don't complain about each other to other people. We actually, and this is what people should do, we sit down and work on the issues we have. And then when we complain about our issues with other people, we say, oh, but I also found the solution, and this is what worked for me. And like I said, that's something that everyone should do before complaining. Fix the problem, and then you can complain or talk about it. Because I feel like my mom's friends should have done it, and my coworker should do it as well. But everybody makes their own decisions. You cannot force somebody to do something that they don't want to. Because everything I heard growing up about relationships it was bad. But now that I grew up and I'm in a happy relationship, I get why people stay on unhappy relationships, because it's not weird or unusual. Because what happens is that there are many reasons, and I have discovered some of them by talking to my friends and even like my coworker. There are many reasons why people do it. Some of them are that they feel like they don't deserve any better. It's almost like they're punishing themselves. The other one is what somebody told me is that they're afraid of being single, or they feel like they won't be able to find anyone else because sometimes they feel broken. And like I said, it's understandable. I totally get it. Why you want to stay in a relationship like that. But even if it's not a happy one, you're willing to sacrifice your happiness. I think that's bad, because it's important to remember that you deserve better. You deserve to be happy. And if you're unhappy in your current relationship, it might be time to consider moving on if you guys are not able to come together to work things out. Like if your partner is not willing to sit down and work on the issues, and you do want to work on the issues, then what's the point? Because it's not selfish to put yourself first. It's actually called self-love. That's pretty much what self-love is. And that's why I wanted to share in today's episode with you guys. Thank you for the growth. Thank you for everything. Thank you for the shares, likes, and the subscribe. And with that said, remember to share, like, and subscribe. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. The link for all my social media or how to contact me is in the description of the episode. And you can send me a DM on social media as well, or you can email me at bjordanthebadinfluence@gmail.com. And here are my final thoughts. Love is not something you will find on the outside. It's something that you have to find internally, and from there you spread it to the outside. And when you do that, the right person for you will show up, because you will love yourself, that you will know what you want in that other person. And with that said, have a wonderful day.